Your name, first and last name.
Mary Bell MacTeague Simoni.
And your father,
His name was Walter Patrick MacTeague.
Walter Patrick
And
MacTeague.
he was one of 4 boys. And they lost their parents at a very early age and had a guardian. And he went to school up in Canada, in Toronto, which is now the University of Toronto. It's part of it was St. Michael's, which is still under the same name. And he was very ambitious and very smart. He took singing lessons and piano lessons, and he went into the jewelry business. Well, first I should tell you that my mother died when we were all very young. There were 4 of us, and I was only 4. I used to think I remembered her, but I don't really. And he just took the role of mother and father.
And
We were all, except for the young one, who was left as an infant. We were all shipped off to the convent, even my brother. There was a boys' school attached to the convent at that time. And out in what is now St. Elizabeth's College. It was just a convent then, and up to, 4th year of high. So,
was that in Canada too?
no, that was in New Jersey, Convent Station. Did you ever hear of it? So,
But he grew up. Were his family Canadian?
no, I don't know why they sent him there. This guardian, evidently, maybe it was the cheapest school they could find at that time, I don't know. But anyway, he went into the jewelry business, but he continued as a singer and made what they call moonlighting now in all sorts of churches. He had a beautiful voice. And he was very ambitious for all of us. And he did everything for us, and he was very successful in business, as a matter of fact, which is still in existence. Then his son took it, and then my brother's 2 sons took it over. One has since left and gone into business for himself, into the gem business, and I guess he's quite well known in his field. But as I say, he assumed the role of mother and father and did so much for us. And he went to Europe twice a year, and he saw to it that we all went too with him. And of course, he had so many wonderful contacts over there. So we derived some of our education from those trips.
He must have had immense energy if he did well in
Yes.
business, raised the children himself, and managed to sing too.
Yes. Well, we were all at the convent. We were all sent off to school at the convent, except my younger sister, as I said. And he was so fastidious. I have to tell you this because I think it's one of the funniest things about him. In those days, they opened our mail, and he'd come out to see us nearly every Sunday, as I recall. And then the next day, he'd write and say, "It was so good to see you children, but I didn't think your collars and cuffs were clean, and I didn't like the way your hair was groomed." And this was all for the nuns to read. In the end, we were all gone over with a fine comb before we were allowed into the parlor when my father was calling. But I really that had a great effect on us all our lives.
You say, of course, that he grew up from an early age without parents.
Yes.
What did he tell you? Do you remember things he told you about his parents or the family?
No. The only thing I know is about his mother, who was Margaret Bell, and was supposed to be related to Alexander Graham Bell. But I told that when one of my grandchildren found to find out my ancestors, I couldn't tell her anything, that I had any record of. So.
You were the first Mary Bell, or did you get that name from?
My mother's name was Mary Frances, so I was named Mary, and my next sister was named Frances. but the Bell came from his mother.
Ah, that's right. The surname, her maiden name.
Yes.
What was it the boys called you instead of Mary Bell?
Well, for confirmation, I took Elizabeth, so my middle name is E, abbreviated E. So the boys looked at it and started calling me Mary Belly.
You don't
sound like the boys in those days.
You don't remember your father ever talking about when his family came from the old country?
No.
It would have been Ireland or Scotland, I suppose.
I think his family came from Scotland, but my mother's family came from Ireland. And their name was Cherry. And there was quite a brood of them. When she died, there were 3 of her sisters who were unmarried, and they more or less took care of us. But as I say, we were all shipped away. My father wanted us educated just a certain way, but the youngest one, she was only like 6 weeks old when my mother died, so they took care of her. But they were all very dear to us, that none of them ever married.
The Cherry family, you say, came from Ireland. Do you know how far back that was? Was it your mother's mother or father?
I have no idea. I imagine it was their parents who came, because I believe they were all born here. That's in the back of my mind. I don't ever recall them saying they came over on a boat or nothing like that.
What about your husband's family? Was he more of a keeper of records of the family tree on his side?
No. But I know that both his mother and father came over from Switzerland, and they lived in New York, in an area which I guess all these different nationalities went to their own areas in New York City.
Well, Simoni, that sounds Italian.
That's what I used to say. It must have been a whopping woodpile with that name. But they were insulted to be called anything but Swiss.
But I suppose, or you would guess, they came from the Italian part
yes.
of Switzerland. Well, tell us a little more. You mentioned the anecdote of your father and the nuns. Tell us a little more about you. What you remember as a little girl. Was your whole early life the convent life?
I'd say mostly when we came home in the summer for vacation, we would go away, mostly with my aunts. I remember going to Block Island in the summer with them.
For a long stay?
For the summer.
The whole summer.
And then my father married when he'd been widowed about 5 years to a French woman, Parisian. And I think we were all quite upset about that, because we were so fond of my aunts, and still we had to go home then.
Were you learned to be fond of your stepmother?
I never did. I think I was a rebel when I was young. I really mean that. And I don't think one of my sisters, who's she wears a halo on her head even now, she got on with her. She'd get on with anyone.
When you say your father did see to it that you got trips to Europe, were those long?
No, not long ones, because he went over there, and being in the jewelry business, he went over twice a year. And my stepmother would go with him, like in the summer, and then my aunts would come up to the house to be there with us, and her 2 sons.
Did you study languages in school? Were you able to speak other languages?
No, I can understand French, because French was spoken so much at home. Because my father spoke not only French, but Italian. I say he was really an outstanding person.
That's
What do you think?
extraordinary,
Yes.
especially when you think of somebody who's Scotch and Irish. You don't particularly think of those people as being linguists.
Except that he went over
His
having
business.
his business really helped him a lot in that respect. And then, of course, through one of his associates in Paris, he met my stepmother.
Was he one of those kinds of people who would say, well, I think it would be a good thing for me to learn French, and then he'd just go right out and learn French? Very quick mind.
It must have been easy for him because I don't recall that part of him learning it. Except when she came over here, they just babbled away in French all the time.
What about when you were a teenager? Now you're still in the convent school,
Yes,
and that was in New Jersey.
yes. Haven't you ever heard of it?
No, I should, I'm sure.
It's
but,
the station before Morristown. I'm sure you've heard of
oh, yes,
Morristown.
yes.
Well, Convent Station was on one side, and the other side was Millionaire's Row,
Oh.
which was all part of Morristown, really.
The convent was a beautiful building,
Yes, beautiful.
and you had fond memories of that the rest of your life.
I think so.
Do you have some of your schoolmates of those days? Have you been in touch, or are they long forgotten?
One that I was kept in touch with through the years has since died. Then I went to Teachers College in New York. And as a
Was
matter
that
of fact, I took
Columbia?
yes, stenography and typewriting at the School of Journalism. That's where they used to have it. Do they still? That building right there on 116th.
16th. That's
Yes.
where we are, in that
Yes.
building. We don't teach those. We expect our students to know those things when they come there.
Yes, that's right.
But what did you do at Teachers College?
Well, I just took a few courses.
You didn't
And
get a
that's-
certificate
No.
or a degree?
No, I didn't because, as I say, part of that time my father would have an idea that we go abroad.
Were you thinking of making a career of teaching?
Never.
When did you meet your
Yeah.
husband?
Well, I don't think in those days anybody ever went to work. When did I meet my husband? Well, we lived in Pelham, New York at that time, and how I happened to meet him was very romantic. My father was letting me have a party over at the Travis Island. Do you know that? It's part of New York AC in Pelham, right on the water. And they used to have dancing there every Saturday night, so he told me I could invite a few friends. And my aunt said to me, "Oh, I'd love to invite so-and-so, Clarence and me." I didn't know who he was from the home war, but anyway, I said, okay. She said, just let me have one invitation. And we just fell in love. But I didn't get married until 4 years later, because he was still in college.
Where was that?
Well, he was at P&S at that time. And then I was abroad during one period when I had one letter from him, and then I didn't hear from him, but when I came back, he met me at the boat, and though he was as white as a sheet, it seems he had this throat, which now they just give you penicillin or something for. But he was sick all winter, so he quit that summer, decided he wouldn't go back, thought he'd get a job because we wanted to get married, which was a terrible thing when I look back on it, because even Columbia wrote to him. He was a wonderful student in anything he undertook, and I think they were quite upset that he was not going back. He would have been a doctor at 22. Can you imagine that? Of course, that couldn't happen now.
But since almost the time that you met and fell in love, you were both sure that you wanted to get married.
That's right. And we did.
And then when he did not continue with medicine, He got a job, and
then he started going to school, and he took up everything at night. He became an engineer, and he took up public speaking. He was one of Dale Carnegie's first pupils. Remember him?
Yes, indeed. And was since then it's proliferated, and you had
yes.
Dale Carnegie courses, and you never
Oh.
get near Dale. Was Dale actually his teacher then?
Yes.
Did he think it did him good?
Well, definitely. And as a matter of fact, when he eventually went with John Campbell, and everybody who worked for him had to take public speaking. That's what he thought of public speaking. And my boys are all very good speakers because he sort of influenced them that way too. And I do think it's a great asset. It's something I know you must think about your husband. That's right, you can't speak to him.
You told me earlier that you had in the family, was it a sister of your mother's, someone who kept a lot of interest in the family back a ways, and she's gone now.
Oh yes, they're all gone.
And it's too bad we don't have her to sit down here with a tape machine, because there's usually one in a family who does get interested in that sort of thing, and too often they just keep it in their heads and it doesn't get passed on.
Well, we may have a grandchild, one who called me up and wanted to know something about the family tree. So they lived in the most scary place going, because at night when you live out in the woods there, it's awful. And I said to my husband, I don't know how she stands it, this friend, and I said I'd be scared to death. But the first thing you know, we started looking for houses. And I used to tell everybody, don't ever take a ride up to Connecticut. Your husband will buy a house. So,
did he?
Yes. And that's
where?
How in North Stamford. Do you know Stamford?
Yes.
Well, we lived on Eagle Drive, Deepwood. Do you know that? It's
Not
right
sure.
off Chestnut Hill Road.
And did you stop being scared?
Yes, and we were way in the woods. The first letter I got from my sister was addressed. We're deep in the woods.
I guess that was because you were a city girl up to that time.
No, Pelham isn't city.
That's right. Well, it's a lot more city than North Stamford.
That's true.
You just said, and I wish you'd repeat the experience when you were going to convent school about St. Elizabeth's College and how they had dances there, but no young men.
You think that's important?
Yes, fun.
Well, I imagine every college was the same way. The boys weren't allowed on the campus.
But the girls dressed up in their
Oh, it was
best
a very
finery.
important event, I guess, because I never participated in that because I was younger. I was in high school then. How I got out even to look in the window was amazing to me. But I distinctly remember dancing together.
But these young ladies who, where the young men didn't come courting or dancing, then that means that they met their husbands only after they finished college.
Oh, during summer vacation.
You said that you were considered at one stage of your life anyway to be a rebel.
Well, you know, I don't know whether it was because I don't think I was such a rebel in any other way, although I didn't. I used to say I did so many terrible things that I shouldn't be surprised at any trouble that my children got in. But I think I've reached such a mellow age now, I can't remember that I was ever naughty.
Did your father think so, or were you the apple of his eye?
Not particularly, but there's great rapport between my father and all his children.
Were you a
I think on account of my mother dying.
Were you a rebel in school? Did the
No, the only
nuns ever
time
find
I ever answered a nun was one time something happened and the nun called me over and said something to me, and I said, well, I won't stand for it. And the nun said, well, then go upstairs and lie down for it. It was the only time I ever answered a nun. And when my children were, both of my girls went to rehearsal in the academy in New Rochelle. And, of course, when they started losing money, as every school did, they decided to form this women's auxiliary, and to have card parties and different affairs to raise money. And I remember saying to the headmistress, who was a good friend of mine, I said, "I've never said anything to a nun, but yes, sister, no, sister." Except that one time I was told to watch my room.
You don't sound like much of a rebel.
Well, I think probably the great dislike I had for my stepmother.
Did you,
My aunt used to say that she was jealous of me, and I probably swallowed that hook, line, and sinker.
did you see, I saw in this morning's paper that a new study shows that the parochial school children
Yes,
are outdoing public school children in New York in terms of how they do on tests.
scholastically, yes, I've just read that.
Would you
So
say that you got a very sound education going to a convent school?
I think so, and a great deal more than the education, too. I think the nuns give you. I really mean that.
More than the
More. Well, they can't do it in the
than
public
3
schools.
hours. But I noticed the students at the School of Journalism who come from Catholic colleges, for instance, and who probably had gone to Catholic schools before they went to college, are apt to have less trouble with the fundamental things like writing than some of the others.
Yeah, that's true. And
And
spelling.
I've expressed surprise. I've heard some of the students say, "Well, you should see some of the teachers we had and how tough they were about reading and
That's
writing."
right. That's right. I know at Iona, I've always heard that, in the public schools, the teacher wouldn't dare hit a boy. They said that the brothers at Iona would think nothing of hurling a book at you. So, but they just didn't stand for any nonsense, and that's the way it was when I was brought up. But I don't know, I shouldn't say that in my time I imagine all the public schools there was a great deal more respect shown for your elders. And we couldn't even pass a nun without courtesy. And you never go up the stairs if she was coming down or vice versa. We were taught all the niceties, and they insisted on it. So I think that's something you gain more than the 3 R's.
And to this day, I would think that's
But
true.
now I don't feel that way at all about the nuns now. As a matter of fact, my oldest grandchild was a nun. I was just horrified when she went in. She's a brilliant girl. But I mean, they've discarded. I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't agree with me, but I always feel that just the habit itself. You showed little respect for that. And everybody did, years ago. I don't think you feel that way about them now. That's all the nuns are leaving and doing odd things.
Getting married. What
I just don't like it. I'm too old for the whole business.